I feel that it's not answered in that very moment. I know God is still going to be with me in that moment.
I'd actually really like to go off of that question and ask each of you. For me, one of the most difficult things, like my family's Jewish, and we're still very much feeling the, I suppose, the repercussions of the Holocaust. And it was interesting. My grandmother died recently, and at the end of the service, everybody says, "Blessed be God, the true judge." And for me, like the idea of a true judge, somebody who's, I don't know. I guess I'm wondering, how is it that you can take in, all the horrible things that happen in the world? And the Holocaust is an incredibly extreme example, but even the death of a 4-year-old and that incredible pain that people are living with, and retain your faith in a judge, retain your faith in somebody who is righteous and just.
I can start. I think I'm in the easiest position because the 4 noble truths, the first noble truth is that there's suffering in the world. So I kind of am lucky in that that's real. Like that's how we start, is that as human beings in this lifetime, we're going to experience suffering, and the second noble truth is, and it's because we get really attached to things, and that's where I start to lose it a little, because the death of a 4-year-old is really tragic, genuinely tragic. But
I use less anthropomorphic words for God and metaphors. In fact, my tradition encourages me to think of God mostly through metaphors and myths and models. And for me right now, the best metaphor for God is the universe itself. So in some ways I'm more of a pantheist than a monotheist. And I'm a non-theistic person, so I don't ascribe personality or gender or anything to God. So it's not as much of a question for me, because I don't believe I think that's more a cultural add-on to the Christian impulse. But I can see where it's an issue for folks that have a theistic definition for God, or believe in a judgment. I don't believe in a final judgment. I'm more of a Unitarian Universalist when it comes to some of that stuff.
So within Judaism, we have 2 terms, 2 ideas, right? And one is called keva, which is that which is fixed, which is a lot of ritual and words, specific words of prayers. And then there's something else that's called kavanah, which is the intention and the understanding that we bring to it. And because we are so, we very much want to emphasize this, the way that we see ourselves as a continuum, right? That the Jewish people is through time and space. And that one of the ways that we connect with people through time is through keva, is through these words and these practices that are fixed. And so when we have specific prayers like that are said in a ritual kind of way, at that same time, right, at a funeral, at the time of death, it has a way of placing us and connecting us with every other person who's been in that place at the same time, right? So having those words, specific words, gives us that kind of sense of connection. And at the same time, it's true that words, right, the meaning of words and our understanding of God or of how the universe is constructed changes over time. And that's where each of us brings our own intention, right? Each of us brings our own kavanah to what that means. And so you can imagine, right, in a particular time and place, an understanding of God as a judge, that God has a plan and it's a specific kind of a map, right? And that this is all part of that plan, that brings some people comfort. And for other people, when it doesn't match entirely, sometimes we are able to, and which we do actually, there's lots of layers of interpretation within Judaism that we also put into it. And so you may say, right, that, whether it's the prayers about the judge of truth, but also think about it as a source of strength, right? And the fact that we pray together at a funeral all together, right? That you are not really able to do a funeral with a small group of people, you have to have at least 10 people, in the sense that you gain that kind of strength from community. And then using the same words through time and space, right? It's a way to kind of give people a kind of strength and to build people up even in those difficult times.
as a Sikh, we believe that there's only one race, the humankind race, the human race. And so as a Sikh, Sikhs have suffered a lot, just in 1947, millions of them were raped and killed crossing the border, and many had converted. But the thing is, the Sikh just sees that as not something that one day there'll be judgment, but that this was God's doing as well for some reason. And it is the brother and the sister that committed a particular crime against each other, so it was a family matter in a way. Anger, ego, attachment, something got in the way, something that led the men to do what they did. And so you kind of justify and understand that while you're living here, knowing that there isn't a judgment day, but that we are all part of the same human race, and what's happening to each other, it's not about did they do me injustice or did I do, it's that we all did to each other. And so as a Sikh, you kind of sort of understand that that is how it was perhaps meant to be, and not perhaps, it is how God meant it to be, for us to see something, for them to see something, for us to see that, that's what a man is capable of doing. It's lessons to be learned right here. There isn't a judgment there. It's what you do to others that matters, and you learn from that. So it's kind of like a brother and a sister arguing, sort of coming out of the way. If your brother said something bad to you, you will forgive them quite easily, quite quickly. If something happened within the family will reconcile quite easily. And as Sikhs, we believe that we all are the same race, and we should forgive each other and reconcile and move on.
When we have a funeral, the funeral rite, it's so easy to say as a Catholic, they're already soon into heaven. But I'm not the judge, only God's the judge. And we hope, and that's one of the theological virtues as a Catholic Christian, is we hope for that individual being in heaven. And that's why within the church we celebrate, for those who are Catholic, on November 1st, All Saints' Day. That we know these men, women, children to be with God. And we have what we see canonized saints, that the church has declared that these men, women, or children are already in heaven. But we cannot assume these individuals, and that's why we have these liturgies to remind us that it is God who will make that final judgment in the decision that has planned for that individual.
There was a question, I guess.
My question for you all is sort of along the lines of, do you feel as though your faith is doing enough to attract youth? Sometimes in my faith I've felt like I wish some things were done differently, and I'm just wondering how each of you feel about that aspect of passing on the faith.
In Sikhism, we have what's called the youth boards on every one of in our temples, and we have the youth voice. And actually tomorrow, Richmond, the Enzel School is actually putting a little show. It is our founder's birthday, 550th birthday, this week. And so what the youth get to do is through drama, through songs, through whatever they want, express their feelings about how they feel about how things are going, how the adults in their life are doing what Scripture says for them to do. So it's a way for them to, through music, through drama, through play, talk back to, the leaders, the priests of the church. So we involve the Sikhs. We do have Sunday schools where these children are able to attend and understand Scripture, and also they get to participate just as much as the adults in both the prayer services, as well as, being part of talking back through either songs or drama or discussions about what they feel is wrong, about what is, going on in not just the world but within the region, or what they observe in their own temples and so on and so forth.
Most of the youth in my church have grown up and moved away, either to college or they've moved away for affordable housing. Because progressive Christians are more focused on enlightenment rather than being saved, we talk less about salvation and more about how we grow into the likeness of Christ, and we see Jesus more as an example for us. Our educational life is more about teaching virtues and how to stand up for justice and how to be a presence for others in the world. So I would like to think that even though the demographics of my own congregation are closer to an average of 70 years old, that would still be appealing to folks that don't want to check their head at the door, or have a different way of expressing Christianity that's more about becoming more Christ-like rather than anything focused on substitutionary atonement or blood theology that's absent from our tradition.
I think there's always we could do more for youth. Right, my hope is, and what we give the feeling of our youth is that they have a sense of belonging to the community, and even more importantly, a sense of belonging to the people. But I think actually what we need to be doing differently is listening to our youth. I found even in my career, but certainly thinking back to when I was a youth, that youth today are more savvy in understanding or wanting to reflect on meaning and find things that are inspirational to them, and looking for purpose in a different kind of way. And I think that a lot of establishments could actually learn a lot just by engaging that conversation in a different way, and not trying to impart knowledge, but trying to be a part of what it means to be inspiring and to figure out how to, for us to ask questions and encourage others to ask questions.
I've been trying something different this year. I went to the Parliament of the World's Religions last November in Toronto, which was amazing to be with 8,000 folks from around the world that are all focused on their own faith tradition. And we thought we were really diverse after they announced that I think there were 229 religions of the world represented, and then they said out of 4,200, mostly indigenous religions, is the diversity of the human family. But I welcomed some of the folks that had been there to come talk about what it was like to be there, and then a Native American, a rabbi, a Wiccan, Muslim, Catholic priest, to talk about where they see God in the midst of this interfaith world, and in these conversations that some folks are putting themselves in the midst of, and recognizing that we live in a very pluralistic world, and how do we learn the skills to be able to honor one another and to be able to live as siblings in that world is some of the hardest work that we have to do, in order to even learn how to pray with other people. And that's been really the cutting edge for us at the Interfaith Council, is how do we encourage an interfaith spirituality where we learn how to pray with others in their way and without co-opting it or making it your own, but pray with them in their own ways and methods as a form of solidarity. And that's really important after Pittsburgh and Pelway. It's really important after Christchurch. It's important after the Gurdwara and Oak Creek and the shootings and the mass violence that we've had all over. But it feels to me that intersection is the cutting edge for how we live out our real humanity.
For being Catholic, it is a difficult because a lot of young people, and even seeing myself, you think it's just one man in Rome with other 237 grumpy old men making all the decisions, meaning the cardinals in the church. No. Me being a young priest, like, oh, you're so young. And it's talking with our adults. And I'm trying to talk with our adults in my parish and other parishes as well, like, get to know our youth. Like, even though I'm a millennial, I still know how to use this thing. I do not. Like, now we're trying to do with our young people, the app Kahoot. I'm trying to use that with our confirmation and youth ministry program. Because because when I was growing up, go to confirmation, you put your cell phone in the box, and that's it, you listen to the priest. No, when I asked them, hey, can you put your cell phone in the box? Our teens are complaining, like, no, I need this. They're attached to this. And we're trying to find ways to use technology, and one of our bishops here in the United States, Bishop Robert Barron from Los Angeles, he wants to use technology to help understand Catholicism. And with your generation, even though I'm only 15 years apart from all of you, mostly, there's a huge difference. I didn't get my cell phone until I was a junior in high school. I know, most likely you got your cell phone in 3rd or 4th grade?
In 8th grade.
Freshman
Sixth?
year.
Okay, see, you see that demographic. Our kids now today, even younger, are getting iPhones at 2nd grade. So we're trying to find, it's really hearing, because I can learn so much from younger people, even from adults. I think that's what needs to work out, and that's what I'm trying to do with our church leaders, meaning our bishop and priest, along with our youth. Because because we always say the youth are the future of the church, but they are the church now. So I think in our diocese we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, we don't really have, I'll use the word proselytize, but it's like we're not really trying, I think, to get youth into our monasteries. Meditation at that level, meditating in a sangha is pretty intense. And they'll have Bodhi seed classes for little kids and summer camps and stuff, but what I do see happening is a lot of meditation is coming into schools, and the Dhamma, which is what the Buddha taught. The Buddha taught the Dhamma. And so the Dhamma is taught in many meditation practices that are being brought into schools. So it's not really a direct answer to your question. Certainly in my Sangha, they're in Taiwan, we don't speak, we're in silence, and when we do, we're chanting, and we're chanting in Chinese or in English. But you can be a Catholic and be a Buddhist, you can be a Presbyterian and be a Buddhist, so it's a different, it was really cool though on my trip to be for 3 weeks at what looked from the outside as an orphanage in a Buddhist community for children who were abused, abandoned, and traumatized. It was run by a Buddhist monk. And so you have these kids literally from birth living out the Buddhist life, and it was just stunning, absolutely, completely stunning. But I don't know how to do that here in this crazy world.
This,
I'm going to ask you a question.
okay,
I'll-
this
I'll-
is a
I'll-
super random question.
Go ahead.
But how do you feel about like spousal conversion with like marrying someone and then converting to their religion? I don't know. I just like that came into my head.
In Sikhism, there is no conversion. As a matter of fact, you don't have to take any kind of baptism. As a matter of fact, even the very last day, my last breath, I don't have to be a Sikh if I don't want to. I mean, I could do this learning if so you have all your life to decide whether or not you want to live this particular, have these 5 virtues in life and have these 3 living standards, I suppose. So there's no such thing as conversion because you accept everyone's religion as a Sikh. So therefore, as a Sikh, you could be married to a Catholic, and a Catholic could I was raised in a family where my aunt was a Catholic nun,